Muyeol with the cross. Ah, yes! And it's the man who missed the penalty who scores the winner. What a story! And Jung Muyeol.
You're listening to the K-League United podcast, proud partner of Football Nation Radio.
Hello, annyeonghaseyo. Welcome to the K-League United podcast, coming all the way from the Incheon Munhak Stadium to this evening. I'm Matthew Vince, and I am joined by Paul Neat. Paul, it's how you been? How you been?
I'm all right. Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad. But you know, I'm having stresses. Exams are on in school.
Exam season, yeah.
Yeah, it is. I've got my SATs coming up.
Yeah.
Paul, you're taking your GCSEs. I've got a couple of years yet, but how are they going? Are you a bit nervous about a couple of them?
Yeah, I can't believe they're putting a World Cup around this time. You know, SATs and GCSE season. I'm a bit worried about me science, biology in particular, but I've got a bit of a plan because I've heard the last question is going to be on photosynthesis. So what I've done is I've written the formula on the back of my tie. Foolproof. Can't go wrong.
Foolproof indeed. Well, we'll have to see if that pays off for you, Paul. But yes, it is exam season, but more importantly, it's World Cup season, and the World Cup it's going extremely well for the host country, Korea. Yes, they enter their final group game today against Portugal it's Friday, June the 14th as well, for anybody wondering and listening to this back at a later date. Meanwhile, on the 14th of June, there are a number of rumours going around in the footballing world. Manchester United have recently been linked to Leeds United centre-back Rio Ferdinand. Typical United there, just trying to start transfer rumours when England should really be focusing on their World Cup, but fine, whatever. Here it could be a fee as much as 30 million, which is just stupid money, Paul.
That's daft money, that.
It's
daft money.
He'll
never live up to that transfer fee if that does go through.
He'll never live up to it. But yeah, so Rio Ferdinand potentially going to Manchester United, but we're going to have to wait until after the World Cup, I think, to see that. Lazio's financial troubles, meanwhile, it means they might be forced to sell Alessandro Nesta. AC Milan are rumoured to be interested in Paul.
Interesting move if that one does go through, yeah.
Mm-hmm, indeed.
Some other sports news. June 12th was the NBA Finals. Los Angeles Lakers beat the New Jersey Nets 113-107 for a 4-0 sweep and a third straight title. MVP was Shaquille O'Neal. That was his third consecutive final series. The following day was the Stanley Cup final. The Detroit Red Wings, they beat the Carolina Hurricanes 3-1 for a 4-1 season win. It was the Red Wings' 10th title, and for coach Scotty Bowman, he retires with a record 9th title. Incredible. Then the following day, June 14th, the LA Times has reported that Pacific Life Open tennis tournament at Indiana Wells will officially announce today a 50-year agreement with the ATP Tour. The new deal, which begins in 2004 and sees the field expand from 64 to 96 players. And the tournament will become one of only two multiple weeks combined with the men's and women's events in professional tennis. That is, of course, other than the Grand Slam tournaments.
Yeah,
but what about the real news, the hard news?
Well, the hard news is it's Flag Day, Paul.
Flag Day?
Well, in the United States, it's Flag Day, and many of the United States fans are hiding behind them as they go in today's final group game with Poland, with qualification on the line. Elsewhere in America, American Idol premiered its first episode of the weekend. Don't know if you had time to catch it between Eurovision, but Simon Cowell, Paula Abdul, and Randy Jackson are in the judges' seats. Here next weekend's episode, though, supposedly got one of the potential winners giving her first audition. So we'll see how that goes after the weekend. But yes, elsewhere in astrophysics news, an asteroid labeled 2002 MN. I don't think this got enough coverage, but an asteroid the size of a football pitch, coincidentally, barely misses hitting the Earth, and it's recorded as the second closest asteroid to approach the Earth in recorded history. And then, meanwhile, in the UK, Oasis are preparing to release their latest single, Stop Crying Your Heart Out, in a few days to coincide with the knockouts. Something Noel Gallagher may admit to doing on purpose a few years in the future, but who knows?
Yeah, very true. All right, fair enough. Well, let's have a look at the starting lineups for Portugal and South Korea. It is technically Portugal's home game, so they will have to read out their team sheet first. All right, well, for Portugal, it is a 4-2-3-1. In goal, it's Vitor Baia, and then a back four of Beto, Costa, Couto, and George. Then in midfield, the two holding midfield players, Petit and Bento, and then the three attacking midfielders, Conceição, João Pinto, and Figo, and then Pauleta up front.
And as for Korea, they are lining up in the 3-4-3 formation. Starting in goal, Ian J, number 1. Centre-back, number 4, Chae Jin-chol. Also at centre-back, number 20, Hong Myung-bo, the captain, and number 7, Kim Tae-yong. Right midfield sees number 22, Song Jong-guk. Number 6 in central midfield, Yu Sang-chol, and he is partnered by his fellow central midfielder, Kim Nam-il, number 5. Number 10 on the left is Lee Yong-pyo, and right forward is Park Ji-sung, number 19 centre forward, and Jung Hwan, starting after scoring a goal in last time out. And on the left is Sol Ki-hyun.
Yeah, 2 changes there made by Gus Hiddink. Lee Yong out, Lee Yong-pyo in, and Hwang Sun-ong out, and An Jong-hwan in. Same formation though, of course. And a certain Paulo Bento in the starting 11 for Portugal for this one, wearing number 17. But it was otherwise just one change made by Portugal boss Antonio Oliveira. Beto came in at right back to replace Fred Chout. But yeah, Korea wearing their white change strip for the first time in this tournament, having technically been the home teams in their first 2 games. But 3 minutes in, and we see, well, Lee Yong-pyo showing that he's making up for lost time. He had a long distance shot, but it wasn't really troubling the goalkeeper, Vitor Baia.
Yeah, Korea clearly have been told to shoot on sight a goal. Like even in the first 20 minutes or so, they're having quite a few long range shots, Paul.
Yeah, they weren't afraid to have a goal, but the game might have been a lot different had there been 11 versus 11, and this is because João Pinto, red card, he's sent off on 26 minutes for a very rash challenge on Park Ji-sung. Bento was leading the protests as the Portugal players. They do not look happy with this decision at all, but I don't know why, because when you see the replay, you'll see that João Pinto lunges in, and it is a scissor-like tackle on Park Ji-sung. Frankly, he was lucky not to have a broken leg with that one.
Yeah, I just wrote definite red. As soon as you see the replay, there's not really much to argue about for Portugal there. So could have been a lot different there, but it is what it is. And Portugal are now going to have not just Korea and the crowd to fight, but they've also got a man disadvantage.
선수라고 해도 저렇게 저희가 돌파를 해서 뺏기게 되면 기분이 나쁘고 박지성 정정국 선수가 커 보이거든요. 네네. 자 유상철 가바 플레이 좋아요. 유상철 괜찮아요. 박지성 가바 플레이 여기서 왜 이걸 프리킥을 안 주고 퇴장 나왔어요. 퇴장입니다. 퇴장. 볼파는 한 명이 나옵니다. 퇴장. 조한 핀트 선수. 네. 자 한국이 오늘 압승을 거둘 것 같은 그런 징조가 되는데요. 일단 유리해지지요. 네. 핀트 선수가 유상철 선수와 몸싸움을 하면서 네네. 거친 태클로서 발목 쪽을 걷어차는 상황이 되지 않았습니까? 그렇습니다. 네, 전반전 26분 핀트 선수가 레드카드를 받으면서 자 코트가 주심의 얼굴을 감싸주는데 저것도 저러다가 자 다시 볼까요? 지금 보세요. 저건 퇴장이죠. 완전히 가위로 졸았어요. 가위적기에서 박지성 선수의 무릎을 마치 레슬링에서 볼 수 있는 거예요. 그렇죠. 부러뜨리겠다는 의도였었거든요. 네, 저거는 퇴장을 2번, 3번 줘도 되는 겁니다. 어디 저렇게 해놓고서는 그것을 앙이랍니까? 저것은 잘못된 거예요. 핀트 선수. 완전히 작두 같은 다리였어요. 저 잘못된 겁니다. 자 대전에서는 폴란드가 기분 좋게 미국을 2대
But then on 30 minutes, Korea think they've scored, but the goal is chalked off for a foul on the goalkeeper. It's a corner in from the right, but the aerial challenge from Chejin Chol on the keeper, Vita Bayer, was seen as a foul. Sol Ki-hun pokes the loose ball home, but it won't count. But still, with the red card and a good chance for Korea, Portugal are starting to look a bit rattled.
Indeed.
That said, they have a chance on 34 minutes.
Yep. Yeah, they have a chance shortly after, despite looking a bit off. They're in a 1v2 situation. Paletta knows he's got Hong Yunbo bearing down on him. He tries to hit the ball first time, but it goes wide, and it's a goal kick. But it was a lovely ball over the top from Figo to set Paletta off. And that's really the last highlight until we get to half-time. 0-0 at the half.
Indeed, and Yu Sang-chol and An Jung-hwan get the match back underway. And then, almost straight away, Korea have their first chance of the second period. Sol Ki-hun has a header that goes just wide, a great ball into the box from deep by Kim Nam-il, who has had a decent tournament so far. Then on 50 minutes, pace and power of Sol Ki-hun causing Portugal lots of problems. A lovely worked move and clever link-up play with An Jung-hwan sees Sol lift the ball up towards Yu Sang-chol in the box. It gets a head on it, but the ball goes just wide. But Korea start the second half very brightly.
Yeah, indeed. And then just after the hour mark, we see a good save from Ian J to deny Pauletta from breaking the deadlock. Lovely glancing header from the Portuguese player, but Portugal's still on the back foot, and going to be even more so because on 66 minutes, there was another red card, Paul.
Yes, Beto is given a second yellow after a late lunge on Jung Muyeol, who was trying to burst forward down the left. The replay saw Beto pull out a little bit. Lee definitely sold it. He definitely sold that foul. And Portugal, they were protesting furiously, perhaps even more so than the first red card. You can perhaps see why with this one, Beto did try to prevent from going in too vigorously, but Portugal now down to 9 men.
Yeah, indeed. In fact, to be honest, I thought the second yellow was also right. I thought it was kind of a late challenge. Yeah, sure, he's definitely sold it, but to me, you wouldn't. It was a naive move.
Yeah,
when you're already on a yellow.
True, you want a yellow card, you should be a lot more careful.
Indeed, but yeah, Portugal down to 9 men. Surely Korea can find a breakthrough, and they do. On 70 minutes, it's Park Ji-sung, and this goal, wow.
Yeah.
A fantastic goal. It's a lovely crossing from Lee Yong-pyo, who finds Park free towards the 6-yard box. He chests it down, beats Sergio Concecha with his right foot, and then with his left, fires in through the keeper's legs as well. It was almost Paul Gascoigne-like from Euro 96, Paul.
It was, yeah. You just missing the dentist chair celebration there. I'm not sure what the Korea team got up to before the World Cup, but they probably weren't in Hong Kong in a nightclub. But
다시 볼 멈춰놓고 조금 올려주죠. 뒤쪽에 박지성 가슴으로 치고 걸렸어요. 박지성 골이에요. 포르투갈을 1대1로 앞서갑니다. 골입니다. 박지성. 자, 히딩크 감독 멋진 박지성. 둘이 가슴이 터지도록 껴안고 있어요. 이번 월드컵은 박지성을 위한 대회예요. 기가 막히게 가슴으로 볼줄을 비교해서 수비수를 말이죠. 네, 하나 볼을 올려놓고 왼발 강하게 슈팅한 것이 골키퍼를 뚫고 들어가는 가슴으로 볼줄을 비교했고 젖히고 발등을 던져놓고 가랑이 사이로 통과되는 터널을 통과하는 강력한 왼발 슈팅. 21살의 박지성 선수 좋은 공고를 나왔고 명지대학을 중퇴를 해서 지금 일본의 교토 파블상가에 가 있지 않습니까? 박지성 선수의 멋진 왼발 슈팅.
Chance for Portugal though on 76 minutes. Luis Figo's free kick whistles past the post. And then on 80 minutes, another chance. Nuno Gomez sliding in, but he just can't make the contact that he wants. But then even when you get to the last 3 minutes, Korea, Matthew, is still going for it.
Yeah, I mean, bear in mind they're 1-0 up against 9 men. They don't need to be doing this. They could just be running the clock down. They could be moving the ball towards the corner flags, but they're still going. And Song Jong-guk, he forces a decent save from Bayer. But all this attacking football, it nearly cost them, Paul, shortly after, as Portugal hit the post.
Yes, they did. They hit the post. The ball trickles across the front of goal, agonizingly so. And then Korea have the chance of their own. 89 minutes, Korea break free. Sol Ki-hyun down the left. He switches it over to An Jung-hwan, who is bearing down on the goalkeeper all on his own. But Vita Bayer makes himself big and keeps it at 1-1. And had another chance, again, another sniff in the 90th minute. Korea obviously kept outnumbering Portugal, who obviously had two men fewer, and they had to try and commit themselves forward to try and get that equaliser, and that meant a very, very open end to the game. But it did finish 1-0 to Korea, and they then advanced to the knockout stage for the first time in their history.
Yeah, fantastic. I felt that this game it felt far less controlled than the first two. This definitely had the feeling of progression depending on it. For both of these teams, you could see the franticness in both sides at times, and Portugal especially. I thought they were very rash with what they were doing, but perhaps it sets the tone for what's to come for Korea, because they're now into knockout phases, and the games aren't going to get any easier from here on in. But yeah, if you're a Korean fan, if you're in the stands, you've seen your team pick up 7 points now, qualified comfortably from the group, and when you see this kind of performance, yeah, sure, they had a 2-man advantage by the end of it, but you've got to start feeling quietly confident. I mean, you're still probably not expecting your team to go all the way, but you know that they can hold their own against the best of them.
Absolutely, yeah, because even with two men down, Portugal, they had chances, and they had people like Luis Figo on the pitch still, and some really quality attacking play.
Mm-hmm.
But through to the knockouts. So incredible. Let's see how far this journey can continue on for.
Indeed, but you've heard what we've had to say about it. Let's hear from someone who was supporting Korea at the time, and Jung Muyeol is going to tell us what he thought of the match. So take it away, Muyeol.
All right, Muyeol, welcome back. This time we're in Incheon at the Munhak Stadium. I'm guessing that you didn't make the trip up to Incheon for that one. You stayed at home and watched it there?
Yes, I did. I did stay at home, and I watched the game at home. It was too far.
Yeah, it is a bit of a trek. So you mentioned in the last episode that Korea basically needed a draw to guarantee them a place in the knockout rounds. How are you feeling heading into this one? Were you nervous?
Yes, I was extremely nervous because the Portugal, they were one of the best team in the world, and by then I think they also had like Luis Figo in the squad. So realistically, fans were hoping to get a draw rather than actually winning the game. Yeah.
Well, there were a couple of changes made to the starting 11. An Jung-hwan came in for Hwang Sun-ong. And Lee Young-pyo returned. He played on the left side of midfield, or left wing back. Lee Young was dropped for that one. Thoughts on those changes? Was that injury related for Hwang Sun-ong? I know he took a knock to the head in one of the games.
Yeah, but I don't think it is actually injury related.
No.
It was mainly a fatigue related, because
the
game against United States was really the physical and fiery on the pitch. So, and also it was played in a sunny day, so players were really fatigued after the game.
So those two subs made sense then. Well, those two changes made sense. Only two then. Perhaps he could have made more, but obviously he didn't. Gus Hiddink, and Korea went on to win 1-0. Park Ji-sung with the winning goal. Was this him announcing himself as being a future star? Still only 21, of course, at that time. Was this the point where you thought, oh, okay, Park Ji-sung might be somebody who could be the next big thing?
Yes, I think it is, because under Gus Hiddink in South Korea team, I think Park Ji-sung was the most improved player. So that goal was really that goal really symbolized how what ability he has actually.
Yeah. Okay. What were your thoughts then on the performance overall?
Well, I think we were defensively very solid, and yes, so kept Portugal at the bay. But Portugal, at the same time, they were very aggressive and dangerous up front.
And what were your favorite or standout moments from this match? Anything that you remember in particular?
I think it has to be Park Ji-sung goal from this game, because what a beauty that was, and the skills and the control of the ball in front of goal, and the composure and the finishing. That was actually the fantastic goal.
Yeah. And what was the reaction afterwards? Obviously, you'd won the game, you're into the knockouts, and you've won the group. You are the group winners. What was everybody feeling at the time?
I think just the whole country went crazy after the game, because, I mean, winning the first game in the World Cup itself was already a huge success for South Korea. And at home, we just progressed to the next round of World Cup, which we hadn't been to before, ever. So that was a huge success. And then just the whole country was like a cauldron, you know.
Yeah.
Just like people just went nuts, and then just on the street, just people were like hugging and chanting.
Yeah.
Just
great.
Yeah.
What do you think the expectations were before the whole World Cup? What do you think the target was? Just because, like you said, the game against Poland was the first win in the World Cup finals. So with that in mind, was it a case of, well, we don't really have any expectations, it's just to go there and see how well we do? Or was it, let's try and at least get to the round of 16? What was the target?
Just there was always shout from the South Korean national team and the manager Gus Hiddink. We are our just goal is to reach the round of 16, but realistically, no one actually would believe it, because the performance South Korean team showed until early March of 2002 was really poor. So they lost all the game in a friendly or just in any other games, and their performance was like pathetic. And then from like March, when we had 2 games on Europe, so we start turning things around, and then players like really sticking by together. So I think from that moment, people start believing, okay, we are improving more and more. And then the 3 friendly before the World Cup, I think that was the moment people start believing, okay, we might actually do something, and we might surprise the world in the World Cup.
Yeah. All right, well, one final question then on these group stage matches. Who do you think were Korea's unsung heroes from the first 3 games? Some players that perhaps they didn't get the recognition that they maybe deserved.
Well,
like Sung Jong-guk, maybe someone like him, because he played regularly at right wing back.
Yeah. I think he definitely deserves to be named for the unsung hero, because I think he didn't score the goal in the group stage, but I think defensively he just marked Luis Figo and other big players very well, and he was very versatile on the pitch. So sometimes he played as a defender as well. So I think he definitely deserves that title.
All right, well, Muyeol, thank you very much for this, and we'll catch up with you when we get to the knockout stages. Italy will be down in Daejeon for that one, so I'll see you there.
Yes, I'll see you there.
Cheers.
FNR is a revolutionary football-dedicated digital platform, the first of its kind in Australia. It provides a 24/7 live online radio platform experience, podcast hub, and acts as a content provider for TV, radio, and digital. Having reached millions of listeners and football fans since launching, FNR is accessible worldwide via its website or app, providing a platform to discuss, debate, and celebrate the world game. We are your voice of football, FNR Football Nation Radio.
Welcome back. That was our very own Jung Muyeol. Now it's time to get a Portuguese perspective, and so we are joined by Daniel Pinto from the Seleção Podcast. Hey, how's it going?
What's up, Paul? How are you doing?
I'm very good. How are you? Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, not a problem. You hear me okay?
Yeah, loud and clear. Right then, but the first thing we're asking our guests is basically how old were you and what were you doing in 2002?
God, 2002 World Cup. I was 21 years old.
21 what were you doing back then?
God, still going to college, still going to university in Sacramento, California. Definitely, guys, it feels like light years ago.
So you must have quite a lot of memories then of it being 21 years old.
Yeah, it was the 2000 World Cup. I'm sorry, the 2000 Euros, and then the 2002 World Cup was kind of like the reindoctrination of the Seleção, the Portuguese national team, to the consciousness of international football to people outside of Portugal, because in '86, prior to that, was the last time they had made the World Cup. And going to the Euros in 2000, I believe 84 may have been the last time. I'm trying to get my math here and my years together, but since then, since 2000, they haven't missed a single tournament. And but that 2002 squad left a lot to be desired. That's for sure.
Well, I was going to ask you then about, because obviously Portugal finished top of their group at Euro 2000 with 3 wins. Then they got to the semi-finals. Would it have been fair to say that the expectations were quite high for the 2002 World Cup?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a team that had its golden generation still firmly intact. Luis Figo, Rui Costa, Pauleta. You had the emergence of Nuno Gomes. You had a world-class keeper in Vitor Bahia. You had Jung Pinto. You had a slew of other players that was part, that were part, I should say, of that generation that won those Youth World Cups in the early '90s. So it was starting to. It was one of those things that were probably starting to maybe get towards the end of that road. And more than likely, it was the first time they had made the World Cup, the senior on the senior side, since those youth teams. So this may have been the one and only opportunity, and it ended up being the one and only opportunity for a lot of members of that golden generation to make a play for the World Cup. And as Portugal fans know, 2002 was just an absolute disaster.
Yeah, well. It seems, yeah. And the game against Korea was the last match of the group stage. Korea needed to draw to go through. You guys needed a win. What was the general feeling heading into that game?
You know what? We didn't need a win back then. I think the rules now would dictate that we would have needed a win. I think they still use goal differential as the number one tiebreaker, which, I mean, even back in 2002, I'm like, all right, the United States beat Portugal, and then they drew against South Korea. That's 4 points. We have 3. We would absolutely need a win to get through, and not just a draw. So, but to your point, because news came out pretty early, because both games were being played simultaneously, that the U.S. were down 2-0, I think, in the first 10 minutes against Poland. A draw would have sufficed to get through. And I think the expectation was that if it's one of those, if it gets too close towards maybe at halftime it's still 0-0, which I believe it was in that last game. And it's almost like one of those handshake agreements. It's like, all right, guys, let's kick the ball around for the next 45 minutes so that both of our squads make it to the round of 16. But that also did not happen. Spoiler alert for anybody who doesn't know what happened in 2002.
Where did you watch the game? Or where did you watch most of the games in that World Cup? Because the time difference wouldn't have been great, but
it was brutal.
Yeah.
It was brutal. So it was always at my house because these games were being played. I live in the United States. I live in California, and I mean, the games are being played at like 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. So it was either staying up late to watch the game and struggle to get through it, or forcing yourself to go to bed at an ungodly early time, like 7 or 8, to get some serious sleep before, sitting down and calling your friends at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, be like, "Hey guys, we're watching the game," because like there's nobody going to anybody's house at that time. But yeah, I was watching. I was still with my parents, and my dad, being this huge soccer and football fan that he is, and kind of indoctrinated me into the sport. Both he and I were both up, and we're watching the games at the very, very early hours. And as disappointing as the 2002 World Cup ended up being, it is a World Cup that I really won't forget anytime soon, just because of the uniqueness of the viewing of that World Cup.
And how did you guys feel watching that game? Were you nervous about it? Were you did you have low expectations after having what happened in the first 2 games of the group? What were your expectations of the Korea game?
Well, the loss to the United States was such a shock, and especially in the manner in which it happened, because it was 3-0 inside of 40 minutes, and Portugal just seemed like in a shell, not knowing, didn't know if up was down, left was right. They couldn't make any sense of what happened in that first 45. They ended up scoring 2 goals. I think one by Jung Muyeol, and then one was an own goal. Almost had an opportunity to tie it in that first match, but ended up losing to the United States 3-2. They come back and they beat Poland soundly 4-0. Pauleta with a hat trick, and Rui Costa with a goal. So even though the start was disappointing, there still was an avenue to get out of the group. And as long as you give any team with any kind of talent, any kind of expectation of going far into a tournament, if there's any kind of chance that you can make it to the next to the knockout stage, obviously the expectations and the I guess excitement is high. And knowing that it was going to be a difficult game, being that it was against South Korea, and obviously the joint effort between South Korea and Japan in 2002, we knew it was going to be tough, but the expectation was we'd find a way, simply based on the team in the lineup on paper. We'd find a way to do it. It's the golden generation. This is probably our last chance. We'd find a way, but yeah, it just never clicked in 2002.
Yeah, and then Park Ji-sung scored in the 70th minute, and obviously you're thinking at that point, oh no, it's over, or like you said, maybe there's still 20 minutes to go, there's still time, there's no need to feel panicked by it. And like you just said earlier, the USA are losing to Poland, so you guys can still get through.
Yeah, the bad part about all that was it was 0-0 at halftime, but we were already down a man because Jung Pinto gets the red card in I think the 27th minute. Yeah, the 27th minute. And then reportedly, according to the referee's report after the game, apparently Jung Pinto punched the referee on his way out in the gut. I don't know if you guys ever heard that story.
Didn't know that, no.
Yeah, it's wild. But so we're down a man at the half. We are then down another man, so we're playing 11v9 after the 66th. After the defender for the national team, Bet, he gets his second yellow. So it's 11v9, and then about 5 minutes later is when the goal comes for South Korea. But Portugal still had a chance, even though down 2 men, to try to salvage a draw. And it's the hope that kills you, I think is the term that goes around a little bit, and especially with soccer. Luis Figo had a chance, Nuno Gomes had a chance, Sergio Conceição goes off the post in the match, and Vitor Bahia did everything he could to keep it 1-0, and that's obviously how the game ended. after all that frustration, after all that misery, to still have a chance. And I mean, especially with Sergio Conceição hitting that post, it's like, it just isn't our day. It's just not our World Cup. It was disappointing to say the least.
Yeah, and what would you say was the reaction amongst Portuguese fans after the game, after getting knocked out and after losing to South Korea?
Well, I mean, back in 2002, I still wasn't very aware of like Portuguese speaking media or just reading up on the newspapers or anything like that. But I've done some reading. You know, I recommend anyone read a book called The 13th Chapter. It's co-written by Tom Kundert, Simon Curtis, and Nathan Moats. It goes over all of the European and World Cup championship, or European and World Cup finals that Portugal partook up until the 2016 European conquest. But the reaction was very ugly. You know, there were rumors that a lot of the players were selected were injured, that shouldn't have been selected in terms of just fitness. You know, we had a coach and a federation president that did not see eye to eye, and it just never matriculated into anything that any positive cohesion from the top down, from the federation to the players. And the fans were not really aware of the discourse and just the negativity surrounding the team during the World Cup. But as reports later came out, and and not so much in exposés, but just more reporting and research was shown and presented, this was not a bad group, but just a badly run and badly organized federation that, in essence, made a golden generation underachieve mightily.
Yeah. Obviously, in that game, Pinto, he's started for Portugal. He's obviously now the current Korean national team coach. How do people see him among Portuguese fans? Is he seen as someone who could take over the team in the future? Is the South Korea job kind of not a learning experience for him, but something that could maybe help him move on to being the manager of Portugal in the future?
Well, he's already been the manager of Portugal before. Yeah, he was the manager in 2012. Yeah, so 2010 was Carlos Queiroz. Yeah, so Paulo Bento in his first tournament took Portugal all the way to the semifinals, and arguably they had the best shot at ending Spain's unprecedented run from 2008 to 2012, where Portugal lost to Spain in the 2012 semifinals in penalties. So there was a bit of optimism coming into the next big tournament, which was the World Cup. And much like the World Cup in 2002, in '86, 2014, they come out with so much expectation and so much hype, and it just never came to fruition in 2014 with Paulo Bento. So he was released shortly after the World Cup. He, I believe, lost the first European qualifying match. I want to say it was to Albania at home, 1-0. And he was fired, I think, 2 or 3 days later. And Fernando Santos, the current manager of Portugal, has took over after him. But it's a good job for Paulo Bento, I think, just because he didn't leave in the best of terms in terms of, like, from the fans. For the most part, you're not going to always make everybody happy. I don't believe he's universally disliked by any means, but I just don't think his end was very positive. And obviously, losing in the World Cup and then losing to Albania at home is anything but. I'd love for him to succeed. I'd love to see Portuguese managers all over the world, and there are so many who are plying their trade in national teams, club teams. I'd love to have him be successful. Obviously, just not during a group match coming up this winter in Qatar. That's for sure.
Yeah. Last few questions then. Did you, after Portugal went out, did you watch a lot of the other games afterwards, the sort of knockout stages of the 2002 World Cup?
Paul, I caught up on sleep.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. I'm the same. As soon as England went out, England got knocked out to Brazil in the quarterfinals. That was me done. I was sick of the early mornings.
I think I watched a few here and there because with the knockouts, there weren't so many matches grouped in one day, so the matches could start a little bit later. But yeah, I think 2002 was that Brazil winning the World Cup?
Yeah.
And was it the weird haircut with Ronaldo and all the players?
I think it was, yeah.
So I watched a little bit of that, but it wasn't. Once your team is out, I love football. I love soccer. Don't get me wrong, and I watch as much of it as I possibly can. But when you're invested as much as I am with the Portuguese national team, and all of a sudden they're out, it's an emotional dump that you kind of have to recover from. And then given the fact that we were waking up at like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning to watch these matches, and now all of a sudden we don't have to wake up as early as we were. That World Cup after Portugal was eliminated, there was not as much viewing. That's for sure.
Yeah, same with me for England. All right, well, Danny, thank you very much for your time. But before you go, anyone wanting to learn more about Portuguese football, where can they find you and your podcast?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Paul. So I host a podcast called the Seleção Podcast. I've been doing it since about 2018, right at the beginning, or right before I should say the World Cup in 2018 began. And you guys can find me on Twitter at Seleção Pod. It's right there on the show screen there. That's also the handle I have on Instagram. Facebook.com/SeleçãoPod, Facebook page there, SeleçãoPod.com. I also have a YouTube page, YouTube.com/The Seleção Podcast. So I love doing, podcasting's been and broadcasting's been a huge part of just been a huge passion. So when I combine the passion of broadcasting with the passion I have for this national team, is just a perfect fit for me to do that. And I just love doing it. We'll be broadcasting or podcasting, I should say, a couple more times during this week of Nations League games, and then we'll take that summer break until September when Nations League comes up again, and then of course the big show in November. So we shall see how that all goes.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for your time, and hopefully we'll see you again in the future then.
Yeah, Paul. One thing I'd love to say real quick is my two favorite players in all of world soccer are playing in this group. I am a huge, obviously fan of Cristiano Ronaldo. I got the jersey back there, but I am a huge Spurs fan.
Oh, really?
And Heung-min Son is by far my favorite player, and I feel one of the most underrated players in all of football. I hate the fact that Portugal is playing South Korea because I root for Son so much, and I root for him so hard. And I think he is just such a joy to watch. And I guess for me, what I'd love to see is both of our nations get out of group play. And I would love to away instead of just in the Premier League in England, because I think he is so fun, and he exudes positivity. His attitude is always great. His work rate is unbelievable. So I can't wait to see what he does in this World Cup. Obviously, I don't want him to do anything positive against Portugal unless we're up like 3-0 and he scores one in the 90th minute just to get on the score sheet. But I just love him as a player, and I'm so fortunate to watch him as much as I do, watching as many Tottenham games as I do, and it'll be fun to see him play for South Korea, because I don't believe I've seen him play for South Korea in a game before. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there and say what a great player he is. And Paul, I'd love to have you on my pod as we get closer to the World Cup, and for us to get to know the South Korean side of things as we approach Qatar.
Look forward to that. Yeah, thank you. Cheers.
Yep, absolutely. Take care now.
Cheers, mate.
G. Lewis is your neighborhood British bar and cafe located in the Old Giro district of Seoul. Decorated in old English antiques and furniture for a true homely feel, you can enjoy homemade scones, cakes and afternoon tea during the day, and traditional British favourites like beef stew, English ale, and a fine selection of wines at night. Available for private parties or simply an evening out, G. Lewis is sure to become your favourite neighbourhood pub. Be sure to mention K-League United at the bar during your visit and you'll get 10% off your bill.
Okay, welcome back to the K-League United podcast. Before the break, you heard from Daniel Pinto from the Seleção Podcast. You also heard from Jung Muyeol from our own podcast before that. And yes, so if you have not heard, Korea are through to the knockout stages of the 2002 World Cup. There have been results elsewhere, Paul, up until this game. Could you update us on where things stand on the groups?
Indeed, yes. Back on June 11th, Denmark 2, France 0. France are out. Denmark then top Group A. Senegal 3, Uruguay 3. Senegal are through as runners-up. The draw prevented Uruguay from catching them. Cameroon 0, Germany 2. Germany then win Group E. And then Saudi Arabia 0, the Republic of Ireland 3. Ireland win to take the runners-up spot in that one. Then on June 10th, South Africa 2, Spain 3. Spain are through as winners of Group B. Slovenia 1, Paraguay 3. Paraguay's win and South Africa's loss means they go through as runners-up. Sweden 1, Argentina 1. Sweden win Group F on goals 4. They have 4 to England's 2. Argentina are out. Fear not, though, they have a wonder kid called Lionel Messi coming through, so they will definitely win a World Cup with him, I'm sure. England 0, Nigeria 0. England limp over the line, but they do qualify.
It was a hard watch. It was a hard watch, that one.
Yeah, it was. And then on June 13th, we have Costa Rica 2, Brazil 5. Ronaldo now on 5 goals for the tournament. Brazil through as Group C winners. Turkey 3, China 0. Turkey's win means that they have a healthy goals tally and go through on goal difference ahead of Costa Rica. Mexico 1, Italy 1. The draw seals Group G for Mexico. Italy are runners-up, meaning they will face Korea in the round of 16. Tough one for Korea.
Yeah.
Ecuador 1, Croatia 0. Both teams crash out after that result. And then on June 14th, elsewhere today, Poland 3, the USA 1. Poland are out despite the win. USA are through despite the loss in Group D. Portugal 0, Korea 1, as you've just heard. Tunisia 0, Japan 2. They are now through having won Group H. And Belgium 3, Russia 2. The win seals the runners-up spot. So that sets up the ties for the round of 16, Matthew.
Yeah, it does. And then we'll just have a quick rundown of the round of 16 fixtures. On the 15th of June, we're going to see Germany face Paraguay in Jeju. We'll also see Denmark take on England in Niigata on the same day. Then on the 16th of June, Spain will take on the Republic of Ireland in Suwon World Cup Stadium, whilst in Japan, Sweden take on Senegal in Oita. 17th of June then sees Mexico take on the USA. Whew. That one's in Jeonju World Cup Stadium, while Brazil will be playing Belgium over in Japan in Kobe. Then 18th of June, the two co-hosts have both made it through the groups. Not versing each other yet, though. Korea, as you mentioned, taking on Italy in Daejeon World Cup Stadium. That is a massive fixture for Korea there. And Japan taking on Turkey down in Miyagi. Some interesting fixtures there, Paul. Any of those beside the Korea game, any of those you're looking forward to watching?
I think England might struggle with that one. I'm not sure about that one. But yeah, Mexico, USA will be pretty spicy.
Spain versus Republic of Ireland. Well, who knows? Republic of Ireland, Richard Dunn might hold out. We'll see.
Yeah.
Indeed. But yeah, some big fixtures there. But we are going to end it there. So join us for the round of 16 when we head to Daejeon to see South Korea take on Italy for a place in the quarterfinals. See you next time.